Well, great day in the morning to you. It is Friday, June 7th, 2019 AD. And this is what we're going to affectionately call the Sludge Report, which is going to be a rundown through some highlights of the infamous Drudge Report, one of probably the most popular news aggregate in the entire world. And it's something you got to know how to handle if you're going to look at it. Actually, you're going to get these headlines and news one way or the other shoved down shoved through some orifice in your head, your eyes, your ears, and you need to know how to. We need to know. I need to know. I'm doing this for me. For me. Okay. I hope you enjoy it. In fact, I'm going to get you a free donut today if you want it. It's not healthy for you, but then again, getting something free might be healthy for you, and giving yourself a treat might be healthy for you, depending on where you are. So, hey, just depends on how you frame things, right? Context is everything. It is. Okay, so let's get right to it. Okay, right. You want your free donut. Should I make you wait a minute? Yeah, I'm gonna make you wait 1 minute because we got to just do the quick run through here. I'm only gonna go through a couple things on this today. There's just so much. You could spend. In fact, this is a very important point. You can't take in all the news because you just don't have the precious time to deal with it. And why let these death by a thousand cuts? You don't need these things cluttering up your mind and your heart and troubling your soul. So let's go forth. All right, let's go forth into it. So the first thing we want to do is first of all, I'm going to we're going to do our little exercise of we're going to identify the doom. Okay, the doom, and again, this is an important exercise to train our discernment into what is really going on. All right, overthrow the prince of Facebook, Don Lemon. Russia accuses U.S. of dangerous maneuvers after warships nearly caught. Oh, Russia. Fear. Iran threat imminent. Fear, doom. Backlash over straight pride parade. Brad Pitt. Okay, entertainment. Obama Inc. Spotify deal. Bezos invades the swamp. Antitrust fever. Will it kill video streaming? That's serious business. Entertainment Weekly goes monthly. Daily Mail. Traffic drops. BuzzFeed rethinks Hollywood strategy. Content creators lash out. Vox staffers walk out over contract. Okay, let's go up here. Scientists seek out limit to human endurance. So that's kind of a bit, well, that's too convoluted to get into. Tariffs already wiped out tax savings for average Americans. Doom. Over a million illegals this year. Doom. TSA allowing undocumented to fly. Oh, it's all falling apart. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Massive mob walks around border wall. That's frightening. Surge of African migrants. Mind control word. That's frightening. Venezuela now top source of asylum claims. It's a bit frightening. Trump may delay Mexico tariffs. That's probably good news in a way to the economy stuff. STD infections spread to 1 million daily. Frightening world out there. Who alarmed it spread in era of dating apps? Oh my gosh, it might affect my teenager. Or maybe you, right? So I could probably scroll down. I think there might be some articles under here, but we're getting the idea, okay? Robo-dog for sale. Oh, AI is taking over the world. Doom. I could probably make this a little smaller, these little red dots, but we'll do that next time. Okay, fate of Trump's economy hinging on Fed distrust. Uncertainty and doom. Woman stabbed her 3 times because, okay, that's fear. It's just chaos, disorder, people on the brink. America's rural radio stations vanishing. Oh, change. The modern world, it's too fast. Fear and doom, taking country's soul with them. See? Okay, algorithm allows to modify. We talked about that yesterday. It's still going to be frightening. Okay, copy, paste, add, delete words. What's that going to do for evidentiary videos and things like this, you see? That's one way of doing it. I'm going to get a video of someone, again, I haven't read the article, but I'm just riffing off this. Video of somebody talking and saying something that they didn't say. That's kind of, it's a slippery world. New surveillance tool coming to skies. Some of these are from yesterday. They're going to, they linger a day or two. Toronto urged to abandon smart city project. Parents gone wild. High drama inside DC's most elite private school. Okay, there's them versus us. I mean, that's arguable. We got enough red dots. I don't need to try to squeeze any in there. Okay. What percentage is this of all these hyperlinks and headlines? Half? And none of it's good news. None of it. All right. I'm going to get rid of all that. Okay. So now you're going to give you a cookie. Here's your free reward. So today, Friday, June 7th, believe it or not, it's National Doughnut Day. National Doughnut Day. There's a National Doughnut Day. This means, like you've got Thanksgiving and you got Christmas, you got Easter, you got New Year's Day, you've got your birthday. And now, whether you knew it or not, you've got Doughnut Day. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. On the first Friday in June, there's National Doughnut Day. And what it really celebrates is the donut, of course, and it honors the Salvation Army lassies. These are Christian women. And they were serving donuts to soldiers during World War I. So in 1917, the original Salvation Army donut was first served by the ladies of the Salvation Army, your Salvation Army lassies, Christian women. That's another thing I ought to maybe sew in here is how Christians, followers of the way, how they've affected medicine, charity, all kinds of things, and to understand, how unnatural that really is against the selfishness that we see in the world today. So anyway, it was during World War I that the Salvation Army lassies went to the front lines in Europe, and they made home cooked foods, and they boosted the morale of the troops. Those are tough conditions over there. Everything was in black and white. I'm just kidding. Okay. So anyway, here's an interesting little thing to know, that they cooked the donuts in oil using metal helmets of the soldiers. So if you picture those kind of they don't look like the helmets of today, which look more like crash helmets or something, like combat helmets, but they were, you have to look at some pictures. I didn't have anything pulled up to show you, but in the metal helmets of the American soldiers, they used them, heated the oil in them, and fried the donuts in them. And it used to be spelled D-O, like I spelled it in the, because that's what National Doughnut Day, that's how they spell it, D-O-U-G-H-N-U-T. But today it's usually spelled like Dunkin' Donuts, D-O-N-U-T. So anyway, American infantrymen, they used to call them doughboys. There you go. So I didn't really know that until today. I like learning stuff like that. That's pretty cool. So here's where it affects you. All right. You can observe today by enjoying your favorite donut. Now, it's not good for you if you're on a keto type diet, if you're diabetic, which many of you are. Many of you are pre-diabetic and don't even know it. Statistically, if you're watching this video, you might have a insulin resistance. You might have some kind of problem because the SAD diet, it's SAD. What does that stand for? The Standard American Diet. It's SAD. You can have that one for free. Okay. So it's sad. And I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy your donut. Man, it's really good. Donuts are good. They make you feel good for a minute. And sometimes you might need that, right? So you can get one for free. You can get one for free. And you can go to Krispy Kreme if you got one near you. They're trying to give away 1 million donuts today. And if they get 1 million, they're gonna have another one this month. So any rate, I think they'll probably reach that goal, I would think. At any rate, so if you go to Krispy Kreme, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing. You visit a Krispy Kreme, you get a free donut. You don't have to do anything. Now, if you go to Dunkin' Donut, if you get a free classic donut if you buy something like a drink, if you buy a beverage. Okay, Krispy Kreme is just saying no. You can just come here and use our bathroom and get a free donut. And I encourage you to let your conscience be your guide. Okay, so there you go. All right, so I guess you can turn off the video now and not hear the real meat of the matter. But there you go. National Donut Day. Tell your friends and family and coworkers and that bit of trivia and enjoy. Excuse me, sniffles. Okay, so let's move on to the real nitty gritty. So I'm not going to necessarily start with the top headline here, which I'll get to in a minute. I want to talk about this one. Okay. This was on there yesterday. 1,072,000 illegals this year. Not 1,072,001. Not 1,071,999. I just find that amusing. Okay. Who's counting? If they can keep a census of all these, and I got to catch myself because illegals is like a safe island word. Okay. It means it's like you're not saying migrants, you're not saying immigrants, you're saying illegals. The proper term, or at least the working proper term right now, I'll maybe come up with something else that I feel more succinct and satisfying. Invaders. This is an invasion. Okay. This is not people just breaking the law, trying desperately to have a better life. This is orchestrated, stimulated, funded, provocated. Is that a word? This is an event of biblical proportions. If you consider what's going on in Europe, what's going on here, and there's an agenda that has nothing to do with making a better life for these people. In fact, in the end, it's going to make a worse life for everybody, because the United States, these what did I call them before? So-called these United States will cease to exist and are ceasing to exist as we know it. All the privileges and freedoms that we have heretofore enjoyed, which, by the way, since 2001, really don't exist anymore. Things have been dismantled. They may be placeholders there. They may look like they're in place, but they're really not. Anyway, that's, could go down so many rabbit trolls. I got to be careful. This is like walking across a bridge you could just fall through the slats when I try to go down a track like this. So at any rate, 1,072,000, I got to forget you're watching the screen, so I need to keep a little action going on. 1,072,000 illegals this year. Mexico president to hold border unity rally in Tijuana. TSA allowing undocumented to fly. Massive mob walks around the border wall. I think I've seen this. This has been like circulating for a few days or some. Surge of African migrants continue. Again, migrants. This word should not enter this discussion. They're not migrants. They may think they are. Some liberal do-gooders and tree hugging type of people. Nothing wrong with loving the trees. You know what I mean? I'm trying to paint a picture of the type of person who's going to call them poor migrants. They're immigrants. No, ma'am. No, sir. They are invading. Okay. And I'm going to explain it in a way that's really incontrovertible. And I'm not trying to mansplain anything to anyone or be condescending in any way. Like I said the other day, I'm just, this is how I got to process all of this stuff coming at us. Okay. And there's the context, as I've said many times, Everything's a series of facts surrounded by circumstances. Context is king. Context is everything. And the context of everything is the stream of time, what is going on in the world since the beginning of the world. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Even the fact that these United States exist. Why did that happen? Well, if you recall, it had to do with the Pilgrims and Church of England and things like this. So I'm not going to get into all that, but again, what I'm trying to bring this wagon around to is that we've got to consider things in a biblical framework if we're going to understand the reality. This is terrible. All these ads. All right, so you can see all these people streaming here. I'm not worried about the video. In fact, I'm not really even worried about the article. Way too many videos on this. So what I want to talk about is, there's a lot of churches, a lot of evangelical. See if that's a word. Evangelical. That doesn't mean anything. Evangelical churchianity. Soft heart, have mercy on the refugee, and that's all well and good. It's all well and good. In fact, when these invaders do cross the border, make it across, and they happen to get caught or rounded up, it's not like they're not given blankets. It's not like they're not given food. It's not like they're not given shelter. They're treated respectfully in many cases. Look, there's exceptions. Okay. There's things that happen. There's all kinds of things that happen. My point, I'm not trying to paint a utopian picture of it's like a Marriott hotel stay to get rounded up. What I'm saying is that, they're not treated like animals. They're treated as human beings. They can get medical attention, all these kinds of things. So all those, there are verses and arguments to say, about the foreigner, the hospitality towards a foreigner in your land and this and that. Well, that really needs to be broken down. But that's something that, first of all, is being done even by a wicked government. Okay. And I didn't mean to load that word government with wicked so heavily up front here, but my point being is that the government's not the church. Okay. The government is not the church. And don't make any mistake of, some people make the mistake of we're a Christian nation. No, we're not. We're a nation. Okay. It's been informed by many biblical and Christian type of things, but we're not a church. We're a nation. Think about that. Okay, don't think too long because we got more to talk about here. So it says, let's see here, just a moment. Lost my place. So 1,072,000 illegal invaders. Okay. What about that? Well, these people who are coming across and breaking the law to do so, when actually many of their countrymen, maybe even their family members, some of them, have gone through the proper channels, because we do have borders, we do have laws, and we do have ways to enter the company. Well, that's true too. The corporation. We do have ways to enter this country and become a United States citizen that are in place. But these rebels say, no, we want our free donuts and we want them now. Okay. And we are going to do it whether you like it or not. We're already coming in disrespecting your laws. Now, there are countries in the world who have a lot stricter immigration policy. In fact, Mexico does. Okay. You enter their country without going through the right channel, you're landing in the clink, and it ain't going to be a nice clink either. Okay. And you may recall the Marine who apparently, made a wrong turn on an exit and then tried to do a U-turn, and he was in Mexico and ended up in jail for, I think, months. And it took a lot of string pulling to get him even released. Okay, a Marine. Anyway, so these invaders are coming in here, and they're not obeying the laws that are in place. Now, there are countries who have immigration or border policies that are not as strict. Okay, there's nothing in the Bible that says that a country can't have borders. In fact, the Lord himself distinguishes that there are nations and there are borders. So these are things that are in place, that they're there for reasons. They exist. The realities that are part of the human condition. Um, and but what the Bible's very clear on is that just a moment. What the Bible's very clear on is that somebody coming in to the border or coming through their borders like this, flagrant disrespect for the laws of the land, are in rebellion. They're sinning. It's a sin. How about that? Okay, you don't believe me? Okay. We are to give proper respect to the authorities that are in place. Okay. In Romans, let me find it here for a minute. Let's see. Let me find it for you. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Let me think of it. Just a second. Almost 13, 1 through 7. Okay. So let's just read this real quick. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. Those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities, I'd rather read this in a different version, but anyway, let's see here if I can find it. Okay. Maybe here we go. I'm sorry. I actually thought I had this. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. Let every soul be subject under the higher powers. There's no power but of God. The powers that are ordained of God. Now that's, we've got a lot of problems in government and in place and all this, but ultimately, just like Jesus, not his real name, said to Pilate that he could do nothing except that the Father allowed him to. Okay. He wouldn't have any power except God allowed it. So anyway, whosoever resists the power resists the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Whoa, that's pretty heavy. Okay. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Will you then be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and you shall have the praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to you for good. This is basically saying that those border authorities who are rounding people up are the minister of God to them for good. What are these people doing? They are rebelling against God, really. They are coming into the country. It's a sinful thing they're doing. They're rebelling against the law. They're starting off their life in the United States as outlaws, right? Well, the minister of God, the border agent, is actually trying to turn them back to the right path, because that path, the path of sin, usually takes you further than you want to go. You're there longer than you want to be, and things happen you never intended. Okay. But if you do that which is evil, be afraid, for he bears not the sword in vain. He's a minister of God. So he carries not the gun and the taser in vain, notwithstanding. I mean, I'm not for anybody getting hurt, but a revenger to execute wrath upon him that does evil. Wherefore, therefore, that's why. That's what that means. You must needs to be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. I'll tell you what, a good conscience makes a soft pillow. The hound, you can call an evil conscience that bothers you, is the hound of heaven. Just remember that. If your conscience doesn't bother you, then your heart is hardened and you got a problem, and you need to kind of work on that. Anyway, for this cause, pay you tribute also. That means pay them taxes, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, and custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, and honor to whom honor. Well, as a citizen or a denizen or someone who is, born here in this country, you're being dishonored when someone comes in and usurps they weaken the nation. They weaken the nation. All this talk about they come here and they're bringing, we need the workers and we need their talents and all these kinds of things. It's such a BS argument. And anyway, okay, it's early. It's only 7. Again, I'd like to be done with this by 6, but anyway, so I'm not. I got to be careful not to go down rabbit holes, which I don't want to do. So let me get back to the article here. Okay. So I'm going to take it one step further. So it's one thing to say that these people who ostensibly are just poor oppressed people fleeing, they're coming here. They're clearly, they're sinning. You're getting 1,072,000 sinners. Well, we're all sinners, right? But we're talking people in open rebellion, who are scofflaws, outlaws, and freeloaders. What does freeloader mean? They're stealing. So they're thieving. They're stealing. Okay, so it's enough to say that this is wrong because the Bible just showed you it is, right? If you support this, if you support quote unquote illegal immigration, if you support the quote unquote migrants, you're sinning too. And you're in rebellion. Look, we're all in rebellion. I just said yesterday, there's sin in my, I'm just something to deal with every day. Failings and omissions and commissions and all this kind of stuff. But there's certain things that pretty easy to toggle the switch, change your position, understand and acknowledge that that's not right, that there's no way people should be supporting the amnesty, look, I'm all for big time mercies. I've experienced them in my life. I do every day by the grace of God, from God and man. Notwithstanding, amnesty is the big free donut that a lot of them are hoping to get on top of a lot of other little, donut holes, free donut holes, the other little donuts, education, healthcare, welfare checks, whatever, you name it. Okay. You name it. I don't even know all the stuff available. I'm shocked. In fact, yesterday, I saw something and they were in Europe. It was a YouTube video. There was in Europe, in Germany, some of these people that are coming there from these from like Syria type areas are getting massive checks. Thousands of dollars they get in sort of support, while the local German goes without and suffers. It's just flipped upside down. It's confusion. What did we say yesterday? God's not the author of confusion. Okay, so let's go back to the Sludge report. And here's another part of this. TSA allowing undocumented to fly. Well, I don't know the last time you went through the lines and had to fly and show your papers and all this kind of stuff. But that ought to piss you right off. I read this article last night. They're allowing these, first of all, undocumented. They're allowing invaders, unknown quantities, to fly. Who are these people? Where'd they come from? Oh, Africa? Didn't the underwear bomber come from Africa? Right? What about all these well, okay, again, I got to watch the rabbit holes because I don't want this video to be 48 minutes long or 111 minutes long. I'd really want to keep it 30 minutes at the most, so you could have a free donut, cup of coffee, watch this, and be and be somewhat amused and somewhat um, given some food for thought and maybe edified. We need to be sharpened. Bible say, "Man sharpens man as iron sharpens iron." Hopefully I'm making a few sparks on some people and sharpening you up a little bit. A lot of these things you may know, but you forget them. I forget them. That's why I'm doing this. I'm rusty, man. I'm rusty. Didn't crack the Bible too much for a while. Didn't mean I wasn't getting streams in the desert, but I used to be a lot more let's say I just did a lot more handling of the word a few years back. Anyhow, so let's move on to something else. Let's just get back to the headline for a minute before they change it out. Biden abortion turn. Okay. So Biden buckles, flips on Hyde Amendment under pressure from Democrats. Well, I don't know what the Hyde Amendment is. I have to get an education later today. But it does say right here, reverses position the Hyde Amendment, which ultimately sounds like it means this. He reaffirmed his support for Roe versus Wade. Well, Roe versus Wade, for some of the people that I've got a lot of friends on social media who don't live in the United States. And you probably know this, but in case you don't, this was 1972, I think, a Supreme Court decision that basically opened the gate for abortions being, big business. That's what it really means, is that Roe versus Wade, you can operate a clinic and, destroy children and women's lives, carte blanche, because they're afraid that God won't provide for them, that or maybe they are afraid that if they have that baby, they aren't going to be able to, their freedom's going to be limited, and it would be, in a sense. Having a baby is a responsibility. And when you have responsibilities, you have opportunity cost. You can't necessarily go out partying all night. You got a baby. So anyway, what I want to say about that is that those who love those who are like pro-abortion and they really love death. They do. You know how I know they love it is because they don't hate it. They don't hate it. In Proverbs, it says, "Blessed is the man that hears me and watches daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoso finds me finds life and shall obtain favor of the Lord. But he that sins against me wrongs his own soul, and all that hate me love death." So let's take it a step further. Those who love death, they hate wisdom and they hate the Lord. They hate the word. And we see this manifested all the time. We see it manifested all the time. The way that these people who are they call it choice, okay? Pro-choice are so they're very anti-Christian in particular, and very vocal. There's probably been a lot of violence. I can't think of one. I know there's been violence on both sides. There's people who claim to be Christians and they're not, who have committed violence against abortion doctors and things like that. I mean, I haven't. I'm referencing that because I just saw something about that the other day, and I started to read this huge letter to this guy who murdered an abortion doctor and other people in Florida, and he'd already been, I guess, excommunicated from a church for the things he was trying to do, and and that kind of person gives Christianity like a bad name, but they're not Christians. I see it all the time on social media that people cite, more people killed in the name of religion, and it's not just Islam and Christians and all. Well, no, these people weren't Christians. The people were not Christians who were killing people in the name of Christianity or church or Catholicism, really the Roman Catholic Church, but that wasn't Christianity. It's not Christianity. So anyway, again, I've kind of gone down a rabbit hole here. So let's see. Let's go back. A couple more things to talk about. I had to pull up that verse to read it to you. But I do know that one. That he that sins against me wrongs his own soul. Hey, I've felt it. I've done it. I know what it's like to my soul in torment because of sinning. Right? You've seen videos of dogs do stuff wrong, and you see them. They seem to have a, maybe being a bit anthropomorphological, but they seem to have a guilty conscience. They won't look at their owner. I wish those videos are funny. They're funny, but the truth is, they sort of mirror us. We know we've done wrong. We got our tail between our legs. People can see it. God can see it. Well, we know it. We feel it. If you've got a tender conscience, and I pray you do, I hope you do. If you don't have one, ask God for one. Why wouldn't he give it to you? Circumcise my heart, Lord. Give me a tender heart and a tender conscience, especially towards, doing wrong. And anyhow, moving on. Okay, let's. I got to be careful here. I'm not asserting myself as some kind of, if you got your pastor of your church, or you've got, you expect these people to, you maybe even, suck in your gut, so to speak, around them. You shape up around them. You watch your language a little more. You're not really yourself because you esteem them to be some kind of, somewhere between you and God. Okay. Above you. People do that. Look, man, I'm just a man. I'm just a guy. I'm not that. I'm not asserting myself as any kind of holy man. I'm just a dude who has been nearly vanquished by the flood of the evil tide like this. You get it every day. Okay. And the mind control, all this kind of stuff. It's definitely done a lot of wreckage in my life. And man, I raised my fist, I'm sticking it to the man, and I'm fighting back. And the only way to do it is knowing the battle belongs to the Lord, and the Lord is found in the Word of God, and that's how you have to, and wisdom is, and you have to frame things. They need to be in. You need to put the framework of where does this fit into wisdom? Where does this fit into what God says and all this? And that's how you're gonna, not be dashed upon the rocks as you navigate these troubled waters of our times, of this earth, of your life, all these things. Okay. So let's talk about this. STD infections spread to 1 million daily. Well, I'm not going to click this link because just because I don't know about all the ads, all that stuff. I don't want any more distractions with that. But I looked at it last night. STD infections spread to 1 million. That's worldwide. So I did. That's the one takeaway that's good. I know that it spreads to 1 million every single day worldwide. That's their estimate, or again, not 1 million and one, and not 999,099 or 999. 1 million. Anyway, this is a little joke. Before I get into that, let me just talk about this for 1 second. There's one other thing. Where's our cows? Where's our cows? I know it's in here somewhere. Just a moment. Unless it refreshed and took it off. Let's see here. See, it just refreshed again. Every time it refreshes, you got to be careful with it. Maybe it just took something out. Well, maybe you heard about it. Here, let me try this. All right. Well, it's not important to necessarily find the link. It was there when I started the video or just before. Yesterday, there was big news about an Indiana farm where workers were you know, they don't work there anymore apparently, but there was video of these calves being horribly treated. And I watched a little of the videos, and I will say that I don't know if these folks were um, folks. I don't like that word, but these people who are working there were invaders or not. But they definitely looked like they came from south of the border. Let's put it that way. Okay. Now I've noticed something about people that some of the young men that come from south of the border, their values aren't quite what your average born and raised American is. Doesn't mean that Americans are all right. Obviously, it's not what I'm saying. This would fall under the profiling type of a thing or stereotyping type of a thing, and I'm okay with that. If you're not okay with that, okay, let your conscience be your guide. I am, you know, because it's called experience, and it's called discernment, and it's called reality. Okay, so that's another thing to consider. There's a different regard in different parts of the world towards animals than we might have as Americans. And you know this to be true. So, at any rate, um, in Proverbs, it says that a righteous man regards the life of his beast, of his animal, whether it's farm animal, pet, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. So, what's this mean? It means that the wicked are cruel to animals. If you want to decide whether or not someone is a wicked person or not, watch how they treat an animal. Now, it doesn't mean somebody treats an animal okay. Hitler loved dogs, and Hitler is another topic altogether. But what I'm trying to say is that just because someone is kind of to Fluffy over there doesn't make them a good and righteous person either. But it can be said with a lot of certainty that someone who has no regard for flogging a horse to death or being inhumane towards their livestock or kicking their dog, there's something wrong with their heart. There's something wrong with their heart, and you need to be aware of that. You're going to see a lot of things about animal cruelty in the news. We do. The way people starve horses or starve their pets. It's wicked. It's a sign of wickedness in their heart. They're lost. Effectually, they're lost. God cares for animals, right? He made them. He made them, and he feeds them every day. So who is the man who will starve God's creatures because he's lazy or because he has no regard for their life? Or who's the man who will, kick and beat a baby cow, a calf, because it's getting in the way of him doing his job? Maybe he's late for a smoke break, and he wants to get that animal in there. And instead of doing, learning how to be a calf whisperer, and know how to handle those animals, he beats it with a piece of rebar. You don't know what rebar is, ladies. It's a piece of iron or steel that goes into cement that kind of holds it together to frame it. It's hard, okay, and it's heavy. And to swing a piece of rebar and whack somebody with it, first of all, you can kill them. Secondly, that's going to leave a mark, and it's going to hurt like a mother effer, okay? And, a calf, think of a baby calf or a baby horse. I don't have a picture or anything, but, it evokes a sense of, they're sturdy animals, but as a calf or a baby horse, they're very frail looking. They're very tender looking, All right, let's move on. I didn't mean to get into that so deep, but STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, spread to 1 million daily. Okay. Well, I pulled up some things for us here. This is across the world. But let's think about this. I said yesterday, I think maybe I even talked about this very article just briefly, is, when you put your body into another person's body, you have basically opened up your closed system to their closed system, and you're sharing things that are you're kind of well, you get the idea, okay? So if that person has been with somebody else, um, then you've opened yourself to everything that person that you don't know who it is, who they've been with. And who have they been with? I don't know, maybe a couple years ago they were with a hooker, you know? And who has she been with? Maybe some real bad, dirty dude who's been around the world, who's been, like I said, picked up some Asian junk going around, you know? Uh been to Tijuana, you know, been to Thailand, and indulged in the readily available quote unquote delights of the flesh for very cheap. Okay. And you think you're far away from that? Let's say you run into somebody from high school, and it's a great reunion. They were a former, like you had your eye on them, they thought they were cute, whatever, and you kind of fall into a hookup. You know, they're familiar, all this. Well, who was he with in the last 5 years? Who is she with in the last 5 years? And who are those people? And who are they with? You may have just opened yourself up with that passionate kiss and more to 500 people and all the bugs going around, you know? So what happens if you catch one of these things? You just go take some penicillin? No, you might have it for life, whether it's a syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, and these things have serious consequences. They have the consequences of not just nasty, disgusting, manifestations and symptoms, but you might go sterile. You might go crazy. You might eat your brain. It's happened, because a lot of these strains are because of this, right? They're getting stronger. They're resistant to antibiotics, and some of them can't be cured. You just need to know that. So, let's talk again about what it means biblically. And I want to take it one step further as to why this is happening. All right. But it says in Timothy that he that joins to a whore or a harlot becomes one flesh, right? And he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit. So flee fornication. Now, I'm not saying all sex is fornication and that kind of thing. And there's some, you could look into whether fornication means that with temple prostitutes and stuff like that. And of course, I'm not like a prude and sex is dirty and bad. No, it's not. Okay. But it needs to be in what I say all the time, context. There needs to be a context, and the hookup culture, as it's called now, is far afield. It's a vogue thing, hookup culture, Tender apps, um, you name it. Okay. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones, but there's Tender, swipe left, swipe right, it's a hookup deal. It's sort of a joke, and it's not. It's a big deal, not to mention pregnancy, right? And then what? Now you're stuck. You've got to really get into that abortion debate. What do you really believe? Anyway, every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he that commits fornication sins against his own body. There you go. There's sin against your own body, right? Don't you know your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost and that you don't belong to yourself? We don't own our bodies. I mean, in a sense we do, but it's a gift, Hey, again, I'll be first to tell you, look, I didn't read the owner's manual before I started, I mean, my attitude has been my body's my own. It's in a lot of ways that I still act that way. But the fact is, we're not our own, especially if we've acknowledged that the Lord is sovereign and that he gave us our lives and that we need to honor him by walking in the right ways, So anyway, you're bought with a price, and that price was the redemption of Christ that Christ gave us through his sacrifice, right? So we need to glorify God in our body and in our spirit, which belong to God. And, how do you do that? I mean, that's a tall order, right? It's a tall order. I mean, you can't have a donut. I don't know. That's not what that means. But it means you aren't running around hooking up. I mean, look, people fall into things happen. You can fall into temptation. I mean, it can be I like to say I can resist everything but temptation. That's a joke. But the fact is, these things are difficult. Sometimes these situations can be very difficult. You can fall into something, right? By the grace of God, you won't end up with something like this, but you could. If someone who's just, I mean, some people make light of it. They're conquest people. They like to, they don't think about any of this, and they just go for it. They get what they can. They get what they want. They do what they want. They rush intimacy. Maybe they were looking at a serious relationship, but they rush intimacy. Before that thing's ever going to work out, they've already gone all the way. And maybe they haven't really even discussed what kind of history that person has. And that's something that ought to be talked about, because it's a big deal. Anyway, I guess I'm going long on that, but, a couple other things is that the Bible says in Thessalonians that it's the will of God and sanctification that we abstain from fornication. And again, does this mean that you abstain from sex or sex only within the context of marriage? You'll have to study that out, but by and large, pretty much, that you don't want to, and I say that partly because marriage these days is defined by a big wedding and getting a license from the state. And, is that really right? Were Adam and Eve married with a license from the state? Do they have to get a blood test and get a license and have a big ceremony and get a preacher and all that? No, right? I mean, God made Eve and Adam knew her pretty quick, like. Of course, things were perfect then. So, and it was meant to be. And when I say knew her, I mean, he knew her, knew her right well. He didn't know her like, hey, Eve. He was like, no, he knew her inside and out. Okay. So anyway, if you think back, in the Bible, there's lots of things about sex, but one of them, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So they gave themselves over to fornication. So they were a culture or cities that were, sex was at the center, right? And as Jim Morrison wrote in one of his poems in The Lords and the New Creatures, so sex is at the center. Well, ask yourself, you're standing we talked about tabloids the other day, and we're reading one right now, by the way. Standing in the grocery line, and you look to the left or right, and you look at Cosmo magazine, and you look at, in the South, Cosmo magazine generally will have like a shield over it, because the titles of their articles and the images on their magazine cover are quite provocative, and so you look at television, you look at the ads that we're all subjected to daily. Is sex at the center of our culture? Many people believe American culture is like sex obsessed. And in a lot of ways it is, and there's a reason for that. So back to my extrapolation on the STD infections and all this going on, the apps and everything, we are being purposefully, our carnal nature is being stoked, and because this leads to death, right? It leads to death of one kind or another, whether it's abortion, death by disease, death of your soul, broken hearts, you name it, it's death, okay? Death by 1,000 cuts. There are entities who want the human population to be greatly reduced, greatly reduced. Useless eaters, we all are, in the estimation of these racists and supremacists. And they have no use for you or I, and they are out to destroy you morally, spiritually, and ultimately physically. Okay. And the way they do that is by constantly understanding human nature and how to corrupt good morals, through the culture, through people like this witch. See her? This one. Through people like her, um, people like what's her name? I mean, I don't listen to these people, but I know enough about them to know that they're part of the problem. They're puppets, She might be a little more of a player, but she's expendable too, believe me. Um, by them. They're used to dictate what the values of your children are, you know, and to sow the rebellion against the very things I read to you, or even recited to you about sin and God's will for us and how to possess our vessels and honor, you know. So look, um, I put myself out there talking about this because you might run into me and go, "Oh, look at him! What a hypocrite." You know what? I'm just a human being, and like I said yesterday or the day before, you know, first of all, I'm kind of it helped me a lot if there was a culture that helped to hold up these values instead of you doing it by yourself. You feel pretty isolated, and it's a lot more difficult when you don't have you know your peers that are that also, like I said earlier, iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. you know well, anyway, if somebody does stumble and fall, you need to you are spiritual, pray for them, help them, restore them. That's what I do. I don't like to see anybody down and out, or overtaken and at fault. I don't rejoice in that or condemn what they formerly, were trying to be or are trying to be. You know, Look, man, it's a daily battle all the time. So I just say that because, I know I'm stepping out here with all this stuff and putting, but I mean, I'm just telling you, this is really how I think about these things when I read them. And maybe you don't know that about me. I mean, look, frankly, many of you don't know me at all other than through social media. But there are people there who've known me over the years, and a few of them. And if they watch this, they're like, "Well, God, what? I didn't know this about him. What the hell?" Well, you don't know me, honestly, you don't. And if you thought you did through social media, aha, what's that guy on The Simpsons? I mean, that's all I got to say. It's like, don't be foolish. You thought you knew me through social media. I don't think I know you through social media. Maybe I know a little bit. I can make assumptions, but I try to guard against it because I know how I am not easily known through that. And a lot of that's on purpose, by the way, but that's me. I use it differently. Nevertheless, um, you know, you don't know me. And just because you watch this, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You watch this and you hear me say this, and I read the news and I think of these, what I know of the Word of God and juxtaposed against it. Well, just because I'm doing that, you don't know me. It's like you can't go around and saying, "Oh man, he's a big time Bible thumper and all this stuff." You don't know me, okay? Like I said, I'm just a person. I'm only a person, and but for me, this is a video longer than I intended. This is an important exercise, and maybe it's an important service too. Maybe I'm helping somebody, you know, um, because it's a massively confusing landscape we live in. We're bombarded daily. Mind control is all around you. Mind control is everywhere, and this mind control is meant to steal from you. It's meant to destroy your soul and ultimately kill the life in you, kill all your hopes of salvation, all your faith. It is. That's the reality. So look, I'm probably not going to go get a free donut today, but it's only because I'm, you know, it'll kick me out of my health plan right now. And but I think that you should be aware of that free donut and enjoy it, because what do you get for free these days? Well, not a lot, unless you're invading a country under the auspices of being a refugee, then pretty much you get everything. you know. So, all right, that's enough. Make a great day. And I guess the news train doesn't stop on the weekends. The sludge keeps rolling, so I may look at the sludge report tomorrow. Um, I'm getting something out of this myself. I enjoy it. Helps me get on top of this crap pile. It's dumped on us every day. All right, make a great day.